The one thing that you have control over is your movements. So when your foot hits the curb and you go everywhere, you are immediately recalibrated as to where your foot is in the world because you're trying to keep your groceries from going.
Very true.
Right? And so that mechanism is just all the KAT does at the Kinesthetic Awareness Training. It's an accelerated, immediate recalibration to the precise body part or movement that you want to draw attention to.
That is, if anyone's ever stepped down or tripped on something, you're walking along a surface and all of a sudden there's a soft spot when you've been on a really hard surface, like, oh boy. That is motor learning. That is your body, well, maybe not learning so much as recalibrating in an instant to keep you safe, keep you upright.
Thank you. Yes.
This
Yes.
accomplishes that with sensory input. I want to say it's the same thing because you're getting a feeling. You have a feeling when you step down or you trip. You have a feeling when this vibrates and buzzes. You feel it when it vibrates. You hear it when it beeps. That's the most direct pathway, I think, to neuroplasticity, right?
That's a great word. Direct, most direct pathway in movement. When he stood up from a seated position, he would lean over and to the left, and then that would obviously be a fall hazard. So before he was going to go sit to stand, put it here for posture. And if he started to get up and he got the beep, he's like, oh, that's not what I want to do. It just reminded him, right, that this is where I'm going to fix my posture and then stand up. It works again for stand to sit.
Hello friends, thanks so much for watching. This episode is really special because the product I'm talking about is called the Panthertec KAT system, KAT. And I have with me as a guest in this episode the creator of the product, and her name is Dr. Jo Shattuck, an amazing human doing amazing work to help people move better, feel better, live better. So we have the Panthertec KAT device in our clinic here at NeuroMotor Training. And what we're finding is that even in just the 2 or 3 weeks we've had it, it's been highly beneficial, more beneficial than any kind of verbal cueing or touch cueing, if you will, a friendly touch for posture or something similar, because the way it works is it's a motor learning tool. And as I believe I say in the video in the interview, the most direct pathway towards neuroplasticity, to teach the brain, nervous systems, and body something new positionally, is through feeling. It's through the, let's say, the motor learning aspect of it. So you'll see how it works. It's an amazing product. We have it in the clinic. I highly recommend physical therapists, physios, personal trainers, check it out. Go to her website, panthertec.net. Check it out. Be an early adopter. Get an early adopter price on this. Take advantage of it. Use it for your people because you can't go wrong. And as a very experienced movement specialist myself, a movement rehab specialist, I can tell you right now that the cueing that this gives is far, far better than my best verbal cueing. All right, so enjoy this, and let's dive in with Dr. Jo Shattuck. Thanks for watching.
All right. Dr. Jo, it's really good to have you with me. How you doing today?
Oh, doing great. It's just great to be here, Carl. It's so nice to spend this time with you, and I can't wait to get into it.
Oh, me too. Me too. We're going to talk about this really cool device developed by you, Dr. Jo Shattuck. And of course, that's just the case, but I purchased mine recently. And to all the physios out there watching, all the personal trainers, there isn't a one of you that shouldn't have one of these. I'm just going to start by saying that. I get nothing from saying that. I just get information out. Okay. I'm not getting a commission. I don't want one. If you offer one, I wouldn't take it because this is a game changer, Dr. Jo. Tell us what I know what it is. Tell us what it is, because this is so cool.
All right. I'll start with just a little, I don't know,
a little history maybe. Yeah, give a little history.
Yeah, a little history. Background. Okay. All right, so I'm a former professional athlete. I played racquetball. I peaked in the top 6. Well, I stayed in the top 10 for 10 years in the world rankings, but I peaked at
Whoa.
number 6 the year before I
Beautiful.
retired.
Wow.
And the story is I started really late. I started at 17. And so I was just a scrappy athlete that could play racquetball. I didn't have the strokes. I didn't have the technique. So I had to quickly learn these and teach myself. And of
Mhm.
course, there's no money in pro racquetball, at least back then. So I had to teach others. And so as I'm teaching athletes, they would come in and train with me 2 days for 6 days, and then they'd go home. And then when they came back, they had lost all of the gains that we had made in their technique and their movement generation and their being able to retrieve a movement pattern. So I wished there was a way that we could save that sensation that leads to that optimal movement. And then they can just, retrieve it when they want to. And
Yeah.
so, 20 years later, I have a master's in sports science. I have a PhD in neuroscience focused on motor learning because that's my jam. And now that little KAT device that you
Yeah,
held up
yeah.
in front of
Mhm.
you, it's KAT because it's called Kinesthetic Awareness Training. And that's
I
it.
like the
That's where
sound it makes
we
too, and
met
it
on.
vibrates too. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
So
Well, there you
yeah,
go. So
keep
that's
going.
what it
So
does. It
that
learns a
history there.
movement.
Mhm. Yep. It learns
Yeah.
movement. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a body-worn device that learns a movement with the learner, with the athlete or the patient,
Mhm.
and then saves it and then teaches that movement or that position back to the athlete or the patient with vibrations that are felt through the sensor.
Yes.
And I don't even like to call it a sensor because it's a feedback tool. A sensor implies you put it on and then sometime later you look at some data and it informs you of something. But we live in the small space between the athlete and the patient, or the athlete and the coach, or the therapist and the patient when they need to make that change and feel
Yeah.
the difference. That's what we do.
Yeah, and it's so correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
not a sensor, but it is a positional reminder. I mean, it learns movements that well, in my experience, I'll just say my experience. So I've been using it here with people with primarily posture. That's been our first goal for a few people here is posture. One gentleman in particular we worked more with, who you're familiar with now, John. And we PPMS, 81 years old, primary progressive multiple sclerosis is what that is. Scoliosis, forward lean, right, leans laterally to the right. So it's kind of like he leans toward 2 o'clock, if you will, or 1:30 in his top down.
I see.
Right. So forward,
Okay.
right.
Okay. Forward.
So we put this,
Yeah, forward, right.
and the way this works, within the app, which I can only imagine, and I'm no techie guy, but that had to be the hardest part of this thing, is that, not so much this, I don't know, but making these things work together. I can teach the app where I want him or don't want him to be. So we set it up for vibration and beep when he gets to a certain position that's undesired, and boom, beep, 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 vibrate, vibrate. Oh, and he knows. I mean, he's been standing more upright now because of that motor learning. I want you to tell us about the motor learning, because you're the expert here. I understand it, but I can't explain it well enough. Motor learning through this sensory input.
Right.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, awesome. Thank you. So usually the way we learn now is that movement educators, such as therapists or clinicians, use verbal cues or metaphors on action verbs like push, pull, extend, press, lean, to try to get the body in a position that would lead to an optimal movement or not. Those are great, but the brain then has to process in the reading centers of the brain, right? Reading and hearing words to translate to a physical sensation of this is what I'm going to do. That's hard to do. You can't. I think I was asking you yesterday, or maybe someone, if an alien came down from space and you had to tell him what salt tasted like, what would you say? Did I do this with you the other day?
No, but I don't even know how I would describe that. but pretty much the
Right,
opposite of
exactly.
sugar.
So words,
But what does sugar taste
yeah,
like?
and then they
I
would
don't
say,
know.
well, what does sugar taste
Yeah,
like? Right, right.
yeah.
So that's the exact problem. How do you convey a sensation of movement with clumsy words and metaphors, and even showing you a picture that says, Carl, make your body do that. Can you do that? Right. So the natural motor learning is sensory motor input from the body part that's doing the movement. That's how we know what proprioception is. That's how we know where our bodies are in space and time. Sends a signal when you either do this or that. The CAT is just a comparison tool, amplifying the difference between this way and that way through the body part, not through your eyes, not through your ears. And that's what I think is the mechanism loosely described. That's much more like how you normally learn any movement in space.
I love how you put that too. That's beautiful. Okay. So yeah, I've written a couple books, and the second book has a chapter, very few pages though, and it's about neuroplasticity, because it's not just the brain that's neuroplastic, it's the nervous systems as well. I mean, they're all a big continual loop that works together, and if there's a glitch in any part of that, then that whole system has a glitch, really. But there's so many ways to learn things. There's so many ways to go about, let's say, learning a new skill, a new movement, a new language, a new this or that. But what I particularly find interesting in the movement arena is, let's say, the difference between this device, Panthertec, and my verbal cueing, which I've been doing a long time, and how ineffective my cueing is compared to this, giving that input. And I think this just is like the cream of the crop. It's next level of getting the brain and the nervous systems to rewire as needed, that gradual process of rewiring to help us with the desired outcome, whatever it is. And this helps with neuroplasticity. This helps the learning process. This is a neuroplastic accelerator, I would say. And I love that, because that's what we need to do. And it also, through the feeling, okay, I can't describe a feeling until, well, I can't really. I mean, I can describe it, but until you feel it, you don't know. And the feeling, and we talked about this before on our first meeting, you gotta feel it. And when you feel it, I think it might be the best way to learn something, feeling it, movement wise anyways.
Yeah, movement. And it's true, because your body, and you know this, is wonderfully equipped to know where it is in time and space, right? So, and I often use the motor learning, the thing about, if you've ever tripped up a curb with an armful of groceries, right? And you know, garage sale, your groceries go everywhere. It could be one of a couple things. One is your brain's model of where the curb was in the world was incorrect, or your brain's model of its own body in the world was incorrect.
Yeah.
Forget all the other psychosocial, attention, visual things that can affect if someone trips, but either of those two things. Now, the one thing that you have control over is your movements. So when your foot hits the curb and you go everywhere, you are immediately recalibrated as to where your foot is in the world, because you're trying to keep your groceries from going everywhere.
Very true.
Right. And so that mechanism is just all the CAT does. The kinesthetic awareness training is it's an accelerated, immediate recalibration to the precise body part or movement that you want to draw attention to. And the brain compares this versus this, and that's when the learning happens, right? It's the error prediction model of motor learning, right? I think I'm reaching for my glass. I don't feel it yet. I feel it on the back of my hand. Oh, I know my glass is over here. It's comparing what I think my body is doing to what it's actually doing. And that's the mechanism of kinesthetic awareness training.
I mean, I just love that. I can't even add anything to it other than like, that's the best explanation I've ever heard. Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really great.
Good.
So tell me, I'm curious to know, like, what are some of the applications you've used this for? I know there's a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah. So,
And I'm going to interject. I'm really sorry.
coolest
Okay,
one.
so I work primarily
Yeah,
with
yeah.
people with movement disorders, or let's say maybe a more elderly population. And in those cases, we oftentimes run into postural challenges, scoliosis, there's whoever, there's all, or stride length, stride symmetry, different things like that. But that's just my population primarily. We have athletes, we have all humans, basically anybody, right? So I'm curious to know, like, because we have so many different people watching from different backgrounds who are working with athletes or other populations. This will work for anybody from motor learning. What are the most common uses you've encountered so far? Because you've been at this a while doing this.
Got it. Oh yeah, this will be fun. Okay, I'm gonna pick three because there's a
Okay,
bunch.
great.
I'll
I
pick
love
the
it.
three coolest ones, I think. All right. So first, we've actually put it on a professional barrel racer. And by the way, you can do up to right, up to three at a time. So on this barrel racer, she
Three
has
cats
one on
at a
her
time?
wrist,
Wow.
3 cats at a time. But get this, 2 of them are on the horse. What? So one on the horse's head, one on the horse's back leg, and one on either the rider's wrist or the rider's back hip. Just call it the hip, because the rider's movement and technique greatly affects how the horse moves. So we're doing some custom assessments of stillness in this technique that they teach. So we have, I don't know, half a dozen different data from pro rodeo barrel racing to where comparing this technique, how does it affect the horse in this technique? But the deal is you're training the rider to move differently with the feedback, right?
Wow.
And I obviously I don't know anything about barrel racing, but there's a certain position that helps your horse go, I want to say go faster, but move more efficiently. And it doesn't involve crossing over the midline. And so one of the things we're doing with them is capturing the bad behavior, crossing over the midline. And essentially you'll be able to practice in your living room of knowing where your arms are in space so that during the race, you don't do the thing that slows your horse down. That's all it is. That was a pretty cool one.
Oh, it had to be. That's amazing.
I don't know if
that's amazing.
So a horse, when their head, when it goes up and down a lot, that's not efficient. So we have a stillness measure for the horse. So that was one of the, we started that a year ago. That was crazy.
Wow.
Aside from all the, I know, right?
That's just amazing.
Should have my cowgirl hat on. Another cool use that we've done is a clinical case study such as this. And a lot of different comorbidities for this particular patient, but he needed to be able to walk 10 steps to get in a clinical trial. And he wasn't able to, and I'm not a therapist or a clinician, but he wasn't able to lift and forward with his leg. Okay. So similar to a drop foot application, we put it on the top of the foot. And when the foot was like, that would remind him, wait, that's not going to go. I need to go up. And that would move his foot forward. Obviously, you can tell I'm not a clinician. But anyway, and this was a duct tape version I sent up there a year and a half ago. I'm like, I don't know if it'll work, just try. And turns out their aides at home started using it for him. And he was going to get into the trial and he had an unfortunate setback. He had a stroke. It didn't work, but it helped him quite a bit just at home. That was kind of a feel good story there.
I love that. Yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah.
So you have barrel
volleyball for setting.
Oh yeah.
What's that?
I was gonna say you got the barrel racing, the clinical thing, and then I'm sorry, volleyball number 3.
Volleyball, baseball, basketball. We put it here to keep vertical forearm. Basketball. We put it here to get the spacing of the hands to the forehead. Rotation. We did a couple of demos in Athletic Republic in DC, and an athlete wasn't getting enough load in her volleyball spike. We have the #1 racquetball player in the US. Her name is Erica Mania. She working on posture here to keep her shoulders over her hips.
Wow.
Yeah, squat depth, pitching, the non-throwing arm and pitching, where if you open up too quickly, then you almost have to decelerate to still hit your target. But if you don't open up at the right time or not enough, then you're not getting the speed of the hip and shoulder rotation of throwing. So almost anywhere that you can put it.
Yeah.
Any movement educator that wants to make another person feel what it feels like to move in this way versus that way. We've done it. The last one, do you want me to keep going with the last one?
I sure do.
Okay. Okay. So this is crazy. In space, the proprioception of gravity is much different than it is in Mars and in lunar orbit and all that. So one of the three things that happens to astronauts besides bone loss and organ shift is lack of proprioception, because they don't have the same sensory motor inputs because the lack of gravity.
Right.
So it's
right.
completely different. So they do a lot of in space movements or exercises to try to, as a countermeasure for this proprioceptive decay.
Okay.
Anyway, one of these things is we had a cat go up in a zero gravity flight, which is a plane that does this up and down.
Wow.
And when it goes down, it's 20 seconds of mimicked gravity, mimic zero gravity. It's called zero gravity flight. So it's a parabolic flight. Anyway, we were doing a lower extremity test in some amputees to see how their bodies would react in zero gravity, so that it's called mission astro access, so that they might be able to explore the boundaries of space when we get there, right? So this whole population has been kind of restricted from a lot of things on Earth, and if we're going to explore space, let's make it an even playing field. So anyway, I donated a couple of units to this experiment.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Turns out it's kind of cool. They're going to try it again. Actually, the flight didn't work, or the researchers were very new, and almost everyone gets sick, so they couldn't complete any of the experiments. But in any case, those are the three probably coolest things.
Oh, wow.
A horse, the case study, and then the astronauts, or the wannabe astronauts, and then all of the sports stuff. Sorry, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent. Sorry,
No,
Carl.
no,
You got me. Once I get going.
No, I just started writing down some notes here, but well, first of all, I'm really interested in the whole astronaut world and lack of gravity. I've never experienced it, but I'd like to someday for a minute. I don't want to go into orbit though.
No,
I'm already in orbit in my own way.
Same, clearly.
Yeah, I think that's why we get along so well, right? It's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at from the horse barrel racing to the astronaut to the athlete to the person with MS with postural lean to the right, lean forward. I mean, talk about a variety, right? I mean, that's a wide span of usage. The thing that I want to make sure that people understand the most, and I don't know that I can articulate this. The first time we spoke, I said something and you thanked me for saying it, but I can't repeat it because I don't know what I said exactly. But I know we're in the same wavelength. But it has to do with what I said just a few minutes ago. What I love about this so much, a lot of things, but I think the thing I like the most is the feeling that people get. Because how can you help me to articulate that? So, okay, physical therapists, physios, personal trainers, I want you to think about this. You're working with somebody, you're working with them on stride length, arm swing, posture. Tomorrow I'm going to use it with somebody to see if we can get their leg at a seated hip flexion to even lift that right leg off the floor even a little bit. And we'll put a target on it, see if she can make it beep. There's another gentleman too, we're going to do this with that. And then leg extension, kicking it out. Can we reach the target instead of my hand as the target on the, so I'm going off now on a tangent, but the thing is there's a completely different sense and learning experience going on with this. And I know you know what I mean. Could you help me out? Because the process of feeling this is way different
Right.
than hearing it verbally or having a little target like my hand or a boxing mitt or something. Help me out.
Right. I can try. So yeah, so let's see, how can I put it? I don't remember what you said either, but I'm glad that I thanked you. Okay. So when you hear something,
Yeah.
there's a level of translation of what does that word mean? How
Mm.
do I make that into something I can feel?
Mhm.
And every therapist and coach out there has experienced the aha moment or seen the aha face, is what we call it, especially in sport, right? You get that good swing, you feel an efficiency of movement and the hip and shoulder separation or whatever it might be. And you're like, oh, that's what you mean. And then you spend the rest of the practice trying to recreate that, do the things and the positions and the movement, the timing that make that happen again. Because
Mhm.
what an athlete needs to do is experience the sensation of movement, being able to replicate it. And then when you're not around to give those verbal cues or hold your hand or whatever, they need to be able to retrieve it, recognize it, and retrieve it over and over to get muscle memory. I think what you're asking maybe is what the feel, why is it so powerful to
Yeah.
feel it?
That's
And I think
exactly
the
what I'm
reason
asking.
is,
That's what I'm asking.
okay,
Why is it so
awesome.
powerful to feel?
Okay. I think because it more naturally mimics the body's natural way of learning where it is in space.
Mhm.
No, you get a sensory-motor input from the mechanoreceptors in your skin. For example, if you were to just bend your elbow, there's a lot of reasons you might know your elbow's bent. One is the skin stretches a little bit on the
Mhm.
elbow, and that's one of these sensory inputs that you get, along with the warmth that you might feel of
Mhm.
these two skins touching together, along with the contraction and relaxation of the tricep and the bicep. And
Mhm.
so your body knows without ever even looking at your arm that your arm is bent. What's happened, I think, is people are so, and the visual system is so dominant, especially now with all the screens that we have in the world.
Yeah.
Not athletes in general are losing their feel, but some athletes take longer to get the feel of what they used to. And they'll actually look at their arm to see if it's bent. That blows my mind. This
Wow.
is neuroplasticity as its best, right? Your arm is bent. Your body
Mhm.
is beautifully equipped to know where it is in time and space.
Mhm.
So to have the sensory input come from the body part, and say it's augmented sensory input instead of your eyes or instead of your ears, and trying to make your body do this picture, that's where I think the O comes from, because it's a more natural association between I move my body in this way and nothing happens, or I move my body in this way and the feedback happens. And so it's the more direct information without the extra layer of processing the words and cues and
That
images into a feeling.
perfect. I understood that completely. I'm a kind of this is a really bad analogy, but I'll use it anyways. I was in Mexico.
Okay.
Let's see, I've been there so many times. It's before my left eye cornea transplant, and before that transplant, I was legally blind in that eye. Really couldn't see anything. In fact, I did after the transplant, very rare corneal hereditary degenerative condition that I just found out earlier this year. Only 16 in every million people have it, but my family has it in my father's
Dang.
side, so it's pretty interesting. I have a plastic cornea right eye,
Wow. Okay.
but I waited to do the left eye until 2 years ago. So at some point prior to that, what I saw out of the left eye was I did a test after the transplant because now the vision is so good, right? And the cataract's out and everything's
Yeah.
colorful. I put a piece of wax paper over
Wow.
the eye. That's what I saw.
Uh-huh.
So put a wax, if you have good vision or decent vision, put a piece of wax
Okay.
paper over your eye and you're going to see, okay, that's what I saw. So my visual input was cut way down. My peripheral was way off. this really isn't a good analogy, but I'll tell you anyways. I'm in Mexico, San Luis
Okay.
Potosi, at my favorite restaurant with a couple physical therapists and hanging out. And when you come out of this restaurant, I'm looking up at all the beautiful, the mural on the walls around these surrounding buildings. It's gorgeous. And there's a curb that's pretty big. I mean, it's got to be a good 12-inch drop. It's not like a normal step or normal curb. And of course, it was on my left, which I had no peripheral. Didn't see it. I stepped down without, you ever do that? You step down, you don't know the step is coming.
Oh,
Holy
yes.
crap. Well, fortunately, I didn't go down and like fall, but the jolt was, like you were saying, tripping up a curb. I stepped down and I remember the absolute immediate reaction. It was instantaneous. Before I was conscious of what was happening, my body was adjusting because my brain and my nervous systems had to keep me upright. That's the job, right? Brain wants to keep you safe. So I didn't fall down. I fortunately had enough, strength, balance, reflex. I could react fast enough to stay upright. Thing is, though, it happened the same thing happened the next night because I forgot
Oh, no.
But the reason I used that, because I forgot it was there, and it was a different kind of look that night, and I'm looking up, I didn't see that mural. Down I go. I mean, I didn't fall,
Oh,
but
no.
you would think I would have remembered. I didn't. But both times, though, I've had other incidents too, especially before the transplant. That is, if anyone's ever stepped down or tripped on something, you're walking along a surface and all of a sudden there's a soft spot when you've been on a really hard surface, like, oh boy, that is motor learning. That is your body. Well, maybe not learning so much as recalibrating in an instant to keep you safe, keep you upright.
Thank you. Yes.
This
Yes.
accomplishes that with sensory input. I want to say it's the same thing because you're getting a feeling. You have a feeling when you step down or you trip. You have a feeling when this vibrates and buzzes. You feel it when it vibrates. You hear it when it beeps. That's the most direct pathway, I think, to neuroplasticity, right?
That's a great word. Most direct pathway in movement is learning movement.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's
can I add one thing?
Yeah, please.
So one of the questions we get is, how does it know, meaning the cat, what I want or what I don't want or what's good or what's bad? What's really important about this is that it doesn't know. It needs a movement educator, a therapist, a coach, a occupational therapist that knows this is what I want and this is what I don't want. This is the optimal movement for you. This isn't, because it's just a comparison tool, right? So there are other, let's call them movement training aids that have pre-programmed information in it. This is how we think you should swing a baseball bat. This is how we think you should throw a football. There's even physical gadgets that you might wear that try to force your body into, there it is, into a position, right? So the main key here is that there's a capture button on the app. And so what you're doing as the movement educator is you put your athlete in the right position.
I connected it.
You press capture, and that is what teaches the cat what you want. It only reteaches what you taught it. It only knows what you tell it. So on the left there, you can see, there you go. The 3 white boxes there in the app, that's a parameter box, and it separates X, Y, and Z planes.
Yes.
So, and you can increase or decrease the margin of error, not only globally, but per plane. So if you wanted to upweight this and have a more precise movement here and have a lot of movement here, you can do that with sliders on the app.
Yeah,
so
I saw.
complex
I did that.
plane.
Yes, I love that.
You did?
Yeah, I used that a little bit yesterday with John.
Okay.
Right, so I'm just going to demonstrate teaching this where I don't want it to be. Okay, so we're going to go just with the Y. I selected the Y plane. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is come down. And I'm going to hit this capture. And I want this to be in, I've got to turn this around, but I'm going to keep this way over here as an undesired position. Okay, so
And
now
remember this, the cat is on the body part when you're doing this. Yeah.
here we are. We're vibrating. You may not hear it because of Zoom, but up here, I'm okay. I'm in this zone. It's okay. But it knows that if I come down here, there it goes.
Right.
I don't know if you can hear
Yes,
it, but
and what you'll yeah.
trying to keep it relative here, but it you may not be able to hear it beeping, but it's beeping and vibrating right now in my hand. Okay, so yeah. I love this because now it knows where we don't want you to be. And that's just one plane, and we can do more than that, right? Yeah. I can also do the margin of error too, which the global margin, for example, I know I can do this. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's already, I don't know if you can hear that. It just picked up on that one.
Okay.
And then we can also go with individual planes and margin of error. And I can start like we did yesterday in this little thing we were doing together, start the data collection, which is beautiful, right? So now I do a file name, collect data, and I can send it to you or whatever. And it's just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love this. So it now knows where not to be, right? And then we reset if we want to catch another undesired position or a desired position. We can have it vibrate when we're standing up straight if that's maybe somebody responds better that way. But I've never seen anything like it, and that's why I have it. Because I think the key is, I feel like I'm rambling a little, but I think we might have come upon the key. Feeling is the most direct pathway to learning and movement. That's it. Feeling is the most direct pathway to movement learning. So this is movement learning. This is motor learning at its finest and its most direct pathway.
That's awesome.
I hope that makes sense. Whoa,
that makes
all of a
sense.
sudden I feel just a little bit smart for 1 second.
That's awesome.
Whoa.
So we do have some clinical case studies. Obviously, you and I worked on one. There's a Quality Living Incorporated has two studies, two projects going on there. One is case studies that they're doing. They similar to our guy yesterday, when he stood up from a seated position, he would lean over and to the left, and then that would obviously be a fall hazard. So before he was going to go sit to stand, we put it here for posture. And if he started to get up and he got the beep, he's like, oh, that's not what I want to do. It just reminded him, right, that this is where I'm going to fix my posture and then stand up. It works again for stand to sit. But I was going to mention that we do have a couple of studies that we're looking for physical therapists and occupational therapists to participate in the telerehabilitation feature, which is, Carl, if I was a therapist treating you, you would hook up the cat to your phone, you'd put it on your body, and I could control your feedback. So I can do a tele-virtual visit and virtual coaching. And this actually came from, I was in a tournament in Chile and I wrecked my serve. I don't know what happened that day because I played pro racquetball and I'm like, I'm in the finals tomorrow. This is awful. I need to fix my serve. And so I'm on the phone with my coach trying to hear words and images and describe to him what I'm doing to try to fix this hitch in my serve for tomorrow. Wouldn't it have been cool if I could have been coached semi-remotely to feel, right? Because anyway, that's where that feature comes from, but that's one of the studies that we're going. So we are looking for clinicians to participate in that one, in addition to something similar to the case you're doing.
Well, I had it. So hear that, folks, physios out there, clinicians. We're going to go over at the end of this, and then in the description is going to be contact info for Dr. Joe, but she needs help. So, I mean, that'd be really cool. Get some people involved here and get this out on the forefront. Make it a household name. Seriously.
That'd be great. I want to help I want to help some folks, and not only in sport, but of course in rehab and astronauts and military, just human movement, right? Every body moves in the world.
Yeah.
In fact, what is it? Daniel Wolpert, his main thing is the point of the brain is to move. And there's these certain sea organisms that I don't say they're born, but they develop a brain. And then as soon as they attach themselves to their coral reef, they eat their brain because there's no purpose anymore.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, one of the Harvard professors I had on, he's the best-selling author, Dr. John Rady. He talked about that in my interview with him on my podcast about 3 years ago. He also is the one who says humans were designed to move. We're not supposed to be sedentary. We are supposed to be moving. I mean, we are these organisms with a set of systems that's supposed to be moving. So
it's beautiful.
If we don't, we really have problems. The reason I do what I do, not that it matters, but I am going to say it, is first of all, it was an accident getting into this. But as I have been doing this now, well, I don't know, 12 years, 13, with this population, I work with movement disorders and primarily elderly. And when I say that, I'm talking 70s, 80s, 90s. We have a few in their 50s and 60s, but not many. Is that the baby boomer population and up isn't getting any smaller. They're just getting older. I mean, yes, people pass away, but we have a lot of people. 1946 to 1964. I'm actually one of them. I'm born in 61. I'm a tail end boomer. And I feel great, but I'm learning some things that I need to work on that I don't want to happen to me, that I see coming in my clinic all the time, that we help with. And sufficient muscle mass is one of them, because we're designed to move, but if we don't have sufficient muscle mass, we're not going to be moving as well. It's the foundation for movement. It's foundation for balance, stability, and mobility, agility. Yes, nervous system is too, peripheral, central, and brain, and the skeletal system, but lack of muscle means compromised bone mass, compromised balance, higher fall risk, lower metabolism, and actually more brain problems, because there's not as much blood flow and oxygen, and not as many of the BDNF, GDNF, wonderful miracle grow for the brain hormones happening that happen as a result of moving and elevating the heart rate just a little bit, maybe lower zone 2. It doesn't take much, but this is this population, getting around to the actual point, is if anyone works in this population, there are a lot of people who need help, a lot of people who have developed a certain lifestyle that has not kept them healthy. I mean, there could be a million reasons for not healthy, but sometimes it's a matter of our choices, our decisions to not move, let's say, and all kinds of problems and blah, blah, blah. But we actually have to relearn things sometimes. We have to relearn what it feels like, in quotes, feels like to stand up straight. And I'm rambling again, but I can't emphasize enough posture, chest out, shoulders back, all that kind of stuff. What about arm swing? People lose that oftentimes, even if it's unilateral. And they don't remember what it felt like to swing it. So when they start to swing it again, it becomes, oh, this is what it used to feel like. I got used to no swing. So now, and it's all about the feeling. So this is where this comes in, folks. The Panthertec KAT thing. I'm definitely doing a promotion, a heavy promo here, because this is the thing that helps our people to feel. And feel is the best, shortest pathway to learning and movement. That's my spiel. A lot of people need help. This will help them get there.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Where can people reach you if they want to contact you, they want to learn more, they want to buy this? Which I highly recommend, folks.
Okay. Yeah. Let me clear that up. So We're not officially on the market with the final product. What's available now is called the early adopter unit. And it's got all the features that you know of. We're building more. So right now, the early adopter unit, one's $500. You can go to panthertec.net. We can put it in the thing. Or just reach out to me at info@panthertec.net. I'll talk you through it. The dashboard, the screen that you saw, Carl, is the advanced dashboard. So we'll do an onboarding, especially if you're a practitioner, because there's a lot of features in there.
That
we
helped
like to
me
do
a lot, by the way. I had an
come back.
onboarding, and it was really, really helpful. I needed it. I'm fairly tech savvy, but I needed this. But you know what? Now it's like just intuitive almost. It was quick
Oh, awesome.
for me.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, so we'll do onboarding. And then in March, our official launch is Q1 next year. But in March is when more of the features will become available. And then we'll start charging for the app package. But if you want to try it now, there's two ways. Volunteer for the evaluation of the rehabilitation feature, in which you get to see it. It takes about a half hour, 40 minutes, but you can do it from your laptop or your computer. So you don't have to go anywhere. You do sign an online consent form. We explain it. We show a video. Then you treat a mock patient, sometimes me, sometimes my intern, and you do an online survey about it. That's an easy way to get a snapshot. But to actually get your own, we'll put the link in the website.
All right, cool.
Of the website.
Very good. Well, and what's that website again? Panthertec.
It's panthertec.net, but there's no H in the tech. So allow me to just send however
I'll have
you
it
get
in
your
the
information
description
out
and all
to,
the platforms, YouTube, iTunes, everything. That link will be in there. So you just scroll below, folks, and click and go and check it out. Thank you. Really appreciate your time. I'm really glad that we got introduced by our mutual connection, Stefan. Thank you, Stefan Silner. He's making a big difference out there, connecting people with others. And, these collaborations are, at this point, it's what I live for. Because I can't do it on my own. It ain't the me show, it's the we show, right? We have to help each other.
I like that. Can I steal that?
Oh, please do. Yeah. I heard a really good one yesterday. Every day's a school day.
Okay.
And the little things are the big things. It makes sense.
Oh, yes. So when I competed, right, and I taught racquetball for a living, of course, when I was doing this. And it's something called the difference series. And the difference in being good and great is not a big one. It's 1,000 little ones. And that's
that's a beautiful one. That's just so relevant to it. None of it's rocket science. The old cliche thing, the horse that wins first place doesn't win by 10 times as fast. It's by maybe a neck length. It's a tiny bit. Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
What we do in professional sports. Yeah. So, sometimes it's just one stroke away, one serve. And that serve may be the one that makes or breaks it. One return. I don't know much about racquetball. I used to play it though a long time ago, and I loved it. Great for hand-eye coordination, and the body and brain.
Oh, it's bilateral. It's 360.
It's everything. It's every plane of motion, and such a great game. But all these things. It's not rocket science, but it's important. And so physios, trainers, clinicians, go to Panthertec without a H in there, net. And
net without an H. Yeah.
We will do the link in below. And Dr. Joe, thanks a million for your time today and for all the great work you're doing. I know we're going to be working together on things in the future for a long time, so I'm looking forward to that. All right.
Thank you, Carl. I so appreciate you having me on, and I'm just thrilled to have met you.
Well, me too, you, and stay with me for a minute. And folks, the best way that you can support the work that we're trying to do here by bringing information, education to the world is to hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications if you want, so you know when we have new videos going up. because my goal through this education channel is to bring you things that are game-changing. Panthertec is a game-changing tool. And so you heard it here. Hit subscribe if you like us, or if you're on an audio platform, hit follow. And of course, you can always share with others because shares are very, very much appreciated. Thanks everybody for watching, everybody for listening, and have a great day.
Thanks, Carl.
My pleasure.